The Last Charge of the USS Johnston, the story of Commander Ernest E. Evans, the chief who defied an empire, October 25, 1944. 7:00 a.m., 60 nautical miles east of Samar Island, Philippines. Commander Ernest Edwin Evans stands on the bridge of the USS Johnston, 5'8", barrel-chested, voice like thunder, Cherokee and Creek blood running through his veins. Then he sees them, 4 massive pagoda masts emerging from the morning mist. Yamato, 72,000 tons, the largest battleship ever built by mankind. Her 18.1-inch guns can hurl 3,200-pound shells 26 miles. Behind her, 3 more battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, 23 warships, combined tonnage, over 300,000 tons. Evans looks at his own ship, USS Johnston, Fletcher-class destroyer, 2,700 tons, 5 5-inch guns, 10 torpedoes. The math is simple. The Japanese fleet outweighs Johnston 100 to 1. Yamato's single-gun turret weighs more than Evans's entire ship. Behind Johnston, 6 tiny escort carriers, 18 knots maximum speed, guns designed for shooting down aircraft, not penetrating battleship armor. Inside those carriers, 130,000 American soldiers on the beaches of Leyte, undefended, exposed. Evans grabs the intercom. His crew waits. The proper response is to lay smoke and run. Buy time. Wait for help. Ernest Evans does not run. Flank speed. Full right rudder. His officers freeze. They understand what he just ordered. He's charging. Alone. Into the most powerful surface fleet Japan has sent to sea since Midway. This will be a fight against overwhelming odds, from which survival cannot be expected. But if Johnston doesn't attack now, 130,000 men die on those beaches. Evans's hand reaches for the engine telegraph. Time to go in harm's way. August 13, 1908. Pawnee, Oklahoma. Ernest Edwin Evans is born into a world that doesn't expect much from him. Part Cherokee, part Creek. Growing up in Oklahoma during a time when Native Americans aren't even considered citizens of the United States. That won't change until 1924. The details of his childhood are sparse. What's known? He's short by Navy standards. 5'8". 170 pounds soaking wet, barrel-chested with a voice that carries across a deck in a hurricane, and he has something burning inside him. In 1926, at age 18, Evans enlists in the U.S. Navy. 1 year of enlisted service. He's smart, disciplined, fierce. June 29, 1927. Something almost impossible happens. Evans receives an appointment to the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, a Native American kid from Oklahoma, in an institution designed for the sons of senators and industrialists. But Evans doesn't just survive Annapolis. He thrives. He graduates in 1931, class standing unknown, but he's earned his commission. Ensign Ernest E. Evans, United States Navy. The Great Depression rages. The world stumbles toward another war. And Evans begins learning his craft. Destroyers, the tin cans of the fleet. Fast, lightly armored, expendable. By 1941, he's a lieutenant commander, experienced, competent, the kind of officer who gets things done without fanfare. August 9, 1941. Evans receives orders to USS Alden, a destroyer in the East Indies. 4 months later, everything changes. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Evans is thousands of miles away when the Japanese strike. USS Alden is on patrol in the Dutch East Indies. Within days, America is at war. Evans's war. For the next 19 months, Evans commands USS Alden in the South Pacific, Australia, New Guinea, the Dutch East Indies, the forgotten campaigns where America fought with what it had, while the industrial machine geared up. March 14, 1942, Evans becomes commanding officer of Alden, his first command. He learns everything a destroyer captain needs to know: how to hunt submarines, how to escort convoys, how to survive air attack, how to make split-second decisions when the ocean is trying to kill you and the enemy is trying harder. But Evans learns something else, something deeper. He learns that command isn't about following orders. It's about understanding when to break them. July 1943. Seattle, Washington. The Navy has a new ship, USS Johnston, Fletcher-class destroyer, hull number DD-557. The Fletcher-class is the Navy's workhorse, 376 feet long, 2,700 tons fully loaded, 60,000 shaft horsepower pushing her to 38 knots. That's 43 miles per hour on water. Armament, 5.5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns. These are the same guns that defend battleships and carriers. Rate of fire, 15 tons and 22 rounds per minute. Range, 9 miles against surface targets. 37,000 feet against aircraft. 10 21-inch Mark 15 torpedoes. 2 quintuple launchers. Each torpedo carries 825 pounds of Torpex explosive and runs at 45 knots for 6,000 yards. One hit can break a cruiser's back. Anti-aircraft guns, multiple 40mm Bofors and 20mm Oerlikon mounts. For when the kamikazes come, this is Johnston, a destroyer designed to screen carriers, hunt submarines, and die protecting larger ships. Evans is assigned to oversee her construction and fitting out at Seattle-Tacoma Shipbuilding Corporation, October 27, 1943. Commissioning ceremony. Commander Ernest E. Evans assumes command of USS Johnston. His crew assembles on deck, 327 officers and men. They expect the usual commissioning speech, honor, duty, country. Evans speaks, "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now." No poetry, no flag waving, just a promise. His crew gives him a nickname. They don't say it to his face, but everyone knows it. Chief, the Cherokee warrior from Oklahoma, taking a brand new destroyer to war. First combat, the Marshalls, January-February 1944. The Gilbert and Marshall Islands campaign, Johnston's first real test. The ship provides shore bombardment for amphibious landings at Kwajalein and Eniwetok. Evans learns what his ship can do. His crew learns what their captain will do. 5-inch guns hammering Japanese positions. Enemy return fire bracketing Johnston. Evans maneuvering between the shells. Closer, always closer. The crew starts to understand. Their captain doesn't know how to stay at maximum range. The submarine kill, May 16, 1944. Solomon Islands, Johnston is on patrol. Routine anti-submarine sweep. The sonar operator calls contact. Submarine. Range 3,000 yards. Bearing 270. Evans doesn't hesitate. Full speed, hard over. Japanese submarine I-176. Submerged, trying to escape. Johnston's sonar tracks her. Depth charges roll off the stern. Pattern, tight. Professional, deadly. The water erupts. Oil slick spreading. Debris surfacing. I-176 goes down with all hands. 101 Japanese sailors. Evans receives the Bronze Star. Citation, for meritorious achievement in sinking the Japanese submarine I-176. It's his first decoration. It won't be his last. But Evans doesn't talk about it, doesn't write home about it. It's just the job. Building to Leyte, July 1944. Guam. Johnston provides fire support during the assault on Guam. The Marianas Campaign. American forces are island-hopping toward Japan, every operation bringing them closer to Tokyo. Evans's reputation grows. Johnston is always in the thick of it, close to shore, drawing fire, hitting back harder. September-October 1944, the Philippines Campaign. General Douglas MacArthur is coming back. He promised to return to the Philippines. Now it's happening. October 20th, 1944. The invasion of Leyte begins. 130,000 American soldiers hitting the beaches. Johnston is assigned to Task Unit 77.4.3. Call sign, Taffy 3. Commander, Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague. The unit consists of 6 escort carriers, CVEs, Fanshawe Bay, St. Lo, White Plains, Kalinin Bay, Kitkun Bay, Gambia Bay. 3 destroyers, Johnston, Hoel, Heermann. 4 destroyer escorts, Dennis, John C. Butler, Raymond, Samuel B. Roberts. Total, 13 ships. Smallest ships in the fleet. Designed for anti-submarine patrol and shore support. The escort carriers each carry about 27 aircraft, FM-2 Wildcats and TBM Avengers, most armed with depth charges and machine guns, not anti-ship weapons. Top speed of the carriers, 18 knots, that's 20 miles per hour. Their guns, 5-inch singles, range 7 miles. Shell weight, 54 pounds. These shells cannot penetrate cruiser or battleship armor. They're designed to shoot down aircraft. Taffy 3's job, protect the invasion fleet from submarines and provide air support for troops on shore. No one expects them to fight a surface battle. Evans knows his orders. Patrol, screen, support. But in the back of his mind, he remembers what he told his crew a year ago. This is a fighting ship. October 24th, 1944. Evening. Admiral William Bull Halsey commands the U.S. Third Fleet. The the main American battle force, 6 modern battleships, multiple carrier groups, the most powerful naval force in the Pacific. That evening, Halsey receives reports of a Japanese carrier force approaching from the north. Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa's northern force. Halsey makes a decision. He takes his entire fleet, every battleship, every fleet carrier, and charges north. He's chasing the Japanese carriers. What Halsey doesn't know, it's a trap. Ozawa's carriers are bait. They barely have any aircraft. Their mission is simple: lure Halsey away. Away from Leyte Gulf, away from the invasion beaches, away from Taffy 3. October 25th, 1944, 3 cars a.m. In the darkness, Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita leads his center force through the San Bernardino Strait. His force, 4 battleships, Yamato, Nagato, Kongo, Haruna, 6 heavy cruisers, Kumano, Suzuya, Chikuma, Tone, Haguro, Chokai, 2 light cruisers, Yahagi, Noshiro, 11 destroyers, total 23 warships, combined tonnage over 300,000 tons. The battleships alone carry guns ranging from 14 inches to 18.1 inches. They can hit targets 20 to 26 miles away. Their shells weigh between 1,400 and 3,200 pounds. Yamato is the largest battleship ever built, 72,000 tons, 9 18.1-inch guns. She displaces more than all of Taffy 3 combined. Kurita's mission: destroy the American invasion fleet, kill the 130,000 soldiers on the beaches, turn Leyte into a graveyard. Halsey left the door open. Kurita walked through. No one is guarding San Bernardino Strait. 6:37 a.m. Ensign William C. Brooks is flying a routine anti-submarine patrol from escort carrier St. Lo. He spots ships on the horizon. He radios back. Probably friendlies. Probably Halsey's fleet. Then he gets closer. I can see pagoda masts. I see the biggest meatball flag on the biggest battleship I ever saw. Admiral Sprague receives the message. He doesn't believe it. He demands confirmation. Brooks flies closer. Confirms. Sprague looks at his radar. Counts the contacts. 4 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers. Range, 17 nautical miles, 20 statute miles. They're already within gun range. Taffy 3 has been caught completely by surprise. 6:45 a.m. The Japanese lookout spot Taffy 3. Kurita looks at the silhouettes through his binoculars. The carriers are small. He doesn't have them in his identification manuals. He makes an assumption. These must be fleet carriers. Large fleet carriers. This must be part of Halsey's 3rd fleet. He's wrong, but he doesn't know it. Kurita orders general attack. Every ship in his force, attack independently. Sink the carriers. 7 a.m. Yamato opens fire. Range, 35,000 yards, 17.5 nautical miles, 20 statute miles. Her 18.1-inch guns roar. The shells arc through the morning sky. Each shell weighs 3 to 200 pounds. They travel at 2,600 feet per second. Flight time, 50 seconds. The shells hit the water near escort carrier White Plains. Colored geysers erupt. White splashes. Yamato doesn't use dye markers, but other battleships do. Nagato's shells splash brilliant pink. Haruna's shells are greenish-yellow. Kongo's shells are blood red. One White Plains sailor yells, "They're shooting at us in Technicolor." The shells are armor-piercing. Designed to penetrate 16 inches of steel, they pass through White Plains' thin hull like it isn't there. One shell goes in below the waterline, through the ship, explodes in the water on the other side. Near miss, but it disables a boiler. White Plains is damaged within the first 3 minutes of battle. Admiral Sprague makes his decision. He orders, course Irnindio, due east, run for a rain squall. He orders, all ships make smoke, hide the carriers. He orders, launch all aircraft. Attack with whatever weapons you have. He orders his screening ships, lay down smoke and prepare for surface action. The escort carriers turn east and run, 18 knots, 20 miles per hour. Behind them, the Japanese fleet closes at 30+ knots, 35 miles per hour. The Japanese are gaining. They will catch the carriers in 40 minutes, maybe less. When they do, it's over. 130,000 men on Leyte beaches will have no air cover, no protection. Japanese battleships will sail into Leyte Gulf and massacre them. 7 a.m., USS Johnston's bridge. Commander Evans watches the colored shell splashes bracket the escort carriers. His orders are clear. Make smoke, screen the carriers, wait for instructions. Evans looks at the Japanese fleet. 15 miles away, closing fast. He looks at his ship. 5 5-inch guns, 10 torpedoes, 2,700 tons. He does the math. Johnston's torpedoes have a range of 10,000 yards, 5 nautical miles. To launch torpedoes, he has to close to 5 miles. The Japanese fleet has him outgunned 100 to 1. Their shells can reach him at 20 miles. He can only hit them at 9 miles with his guns, and his shells can't penetrate their armor anyway. A smart captain would wait, follow orders, make smoke. Ernest Evans is not interested in being smart. He gives the order. All ahead flank, come right full rudder. His officers stare. We're attacking? Someone asks. Commence firing when in range. Evans doesn't ask permission, doesn't consult Admiral Sprague, doesn't wait for other destroyers, he just attacks. Johnston's engines scream to 60,000 horsepower. The ship surges forward, 38 knots, 43 miles per hour, 1 destroyer, charging 23 warships. Johnston plunges toward the Japanese fleet, alone. 7:10 a.m. Gunnery Officer Lieutenant Robert Hagen tracks the closest cruiser, Kumano, flagship of Cruiser Division 7. Range, 16,000 yards, 8 nautical miles. Hagen opens fire. Johnston's 5 5-inch guns roar. Rate of fire, 15 rounds per minute per gun. 75 shells per minute. The shells arc toward Kumano. Most splash harmlessly. Their 54-pound projectiles can't penetrate 5 inches of cruiser armor, but some hit Kumano's superstructure. Fire breaks out. The Japanese notice. Battleship Nagato's 16-inch guns swing toward Johnston. Battleship Haruna's 14-inch guns track the cruiser. Yamato's secondary battery, 6.1-inch guns, opens fire. 19 shells screaming toward Johnston. The shells miss. Geysers erupt around Johnston, some within 20 yards. Evans doesn't flinch, doesn't maneuver defensively. He charges straight at them. 7:15 a.m. Range to Kumano, 18,000 yards, 9 nautical miles. Kumano and sister ship Suzuya return fire. 8-inch shells, 250 pounds each. Johnston weaves. Evans calling the maneuvers himself, reading the splashes. The shells miss. Hagen keeps firing. 45 hits on Kumano so far. Her superstructure is burning, but she's still combat effective. Evans needs to get closer. 7:24 a.m. Range to Kumano, 10,300 yards. 1 nautical miles. Torpedo range. Evans orders, come left. Prepare to launch torpedoes. Johnston swings broadside to the Japanese fleet, presenting her full profile, maximum target. But now both torpedo mounts can fire. Fire all torpedoes. 10 Mark 15 torpedoes splash into the water, 21 inches in diameter, 825 pounds of Torpex explosive, 45 knots, range, 6,000 yards. The torpedoes run true. White wakes streaking toward the Japanese cruisers. 7:27 a.m. Kumano's lookouts spot the torpedo wakes. 3 torpedoes, maybe 4, heading straight for them. Kumano's captain orders emergency turn, too late. 1 torpedo, maybe 2, slams into Kumano's bow. The explosions are catastrophic. Kumano's entire bow section, 50 feet of ship, disintegrates. She's dead in the water. Reversing at 12 knots, taking on water. Sister ship Suzuya stops to assist, to take off Kumano's captain. While Suzuya is stationary, aircraft from Gambia Bay attack. Bombs near miss. 1 bends Suzuya's propeller shaft. Her speed drops to 22 knots. 2 Japanese heavy cruisers out of the fight. Knocked out by 1 destroyer. Johnston turns away, making smoke, heading for a rain squall. Not 1 Japanese shell has hit her yet, but the Japanese have been tracking Johnston. On Yamato's bridge, Admiral Kurita's staff reports, enemy cruiser has torpedoed Kumano. Kurita orders, sink that ship. 7:30 a.m. Yamato's main battery swings toward Johnston. 9 18.1-inch guns, the largest naval rifles ever put to sea. Each shell weighs 3,200 pounds, 1.5 tons of steel and explosive. Range 25,300 yards, 10.1 nautical miles. The guns fire. The first salvo, 3 18.1-inch shells. They fall like meteors. Evans sees the splashes approaching. He orders, hard right rudder. Too late. The first shell hits Johnston aft, below the waterline. It punches through the thin hull. Doesn't explode. The armor-piercing fuse requires thicker armor to detonate. It takes out the aft steering control. Destroys turrets 3, 4, and 5. Kills everyone in those mounts. The second shell hits amidships, explodes in the engine room, kills the engine crew instantly. Johnston's speed drops from 38 knots to 17 knots. The third shell hits aft, wrecks the generator room. Immediately afterward, 3 6.1-inch shells from Yamato's secondary battery. One hits the bridge. The explosion is catastrophic, kills or wounds half the bridge crew. Shrapnel slices through Commander Evans's left hand. 2 fingers fly off. Blood sprays. Another fragment rips his shirt completely off his body. Evans staggers, blood pouring from his hand, bare-chested, wounded. His exec yells, "Captain, sick bay!" Evans shakes his head. Negative. All medical personnel focus on the crew. He refuses painkillers. He'll command his ship clear-headed or not at all. Johnston's bridge is destroyed. Fire everywhere. Dead and wounded sprawled across the deck. Engine power is out. Steering is out. 3 of 5 gun turrets are destroyed. The ship is crippled. Any normal captain would abandon ship now, order evacuation, save who you can. Ernest Evans limps to the back of the ship, the fantail. He establishes a command post there, open to the air, no protection. He shouts steering orders down an open hatch to men manually turning the rudder by hand. Forward guns 1 and 2 still work. He orders them to keep firing. Johnston crawls into a rain squall. 17 knots, trailing smoke and fire. Yamato thinks she sunk Johnston, reports it to the fleet. They're wrong. 7:50 a.m. Johnston emerges from the rain squall. She's listing, burning, half her weapons destroyed, speed cut in half, but she's still fighting. Evans sees the Japanese heavy cruisers closing on the escort carriers, Shikuma leading, Aguro following. He sees destroyer Hoel under fire, taking hits, sinking. He sees destroyer escort Samuel B. Roberts charging the cruisers. Evans makes another decision. Come left. Make for those cruisers. His executive officer. Captain, we've got 1 engine, 2 guns. We're dead meat. Evans. Then we'll be dead meat attacking. Johnston limps toward the Japanese cruiser column. Her forward guns open fire. 15 rounds per minute. Tiny 54-pound shells splashing against heavy cruiser armor. But the cruisers notice. Haruna, the battleship, swings her 14-inch guns toward Johnston. Range, 17,000 yards. Johnston and Heermann almost collide, both maneuvering wildly. They miss by 200 yards. Johnston keeps firing. 8:20 a.m. Battleship Congo tracks Johnston, fires. Johnston fires back. 45-inch shells hit Congo's superstructure. No penetrations, but they damage fire control equipment, annoy the battleship. Congo fires again. 9:00 a.m. Evans sees a new threat. Light cruiser Yahagi leading 4 destroyers, Yukikaze, Isokaze, Urakaze, Nowaki. They're setting up for a torpedo run on the escort carriers. Johnston is almost out of ammunition. 1 engine barely running. Fires burning throughout the ship. Evans orders, "Intercept that cruiser." "Captain, we can't." "Intercept. Now." Johnston limps toward Yahagi, outnumbered 5 to 1. She opens fire with her last functional gun. The shells hit Yahagi. One penetrates her port officer's stateroom, explodes inside. Yahagi returns fire, 6-inch shells. One slices through Johnston's turret too, kills everyone inside. Johnston now has 0 functioning main battery guns, but she keeps coming. The Japanese destroyers open fire, 5-inch guns from 4 destroyers, smothering Johnston. Shells hit everywhere. Bridge, radio room, superstructure, engine room. Her remaining boiler explodes. Johnston's last engine stops. She's dead in the water, burning. Listing. 9:45 a.m. Evans gives the order. Abandon ship. Crew members jump into the water. Oil slicked. Burning. Evans is last seen on deck, bare-chested, blood-soaked, still directing evacuation. Japanese destroyer Yukikaze approaches. Not to attack, to witness. Yukikaze's crew lines up on deck. Commander Masamichi Terauchi stands at attention. He salutes Johnston. A Japanese officer later reports, "We saw their captain on a raft. He was saluting back. There were tears on his face." 10:10 a.m. USS Johnston capsizes. She slides beneath the waves. 21,180 feet of water below. Into the Philippine Trench. 186 men go down with her, including Commander Ernest E. Evans. His body is never recovered. When Kurita broke off his attack at 9:20 a.m., Taffy 3 had held. American losses: 2 escort carriers sunk, Gambia Bay, St. Lo. 2 destroyers sunk, Johnston, whole. 1 destroyer escort sunk. Samuel B. Roberts. 161 killed, 903 wounded Japanese losses. 3 heavy cruisers sunk. Chokai, Chikuma, Suzuya. 1 heavy cruiser damaged beyond repair. Kumano. Finished off by subs and aircraft over the next month. 2 battleships damaged. Multiple other ships damaged. 2,700 plus casualties. Taffy 3's 13 ships stopped 23 warships. The survivors of Johnston floated in the water for 50 hours. Oil-covered, burned, shark-infested waters. Many died of exposure, thirst, shark attacks. 181 men survived the sinking. 92 were seen alive in the water afterward, including Evans. When rescue ships finally arrived on October 27th, only 141 men were rescued. Commander Ernest E. Evans was not among them. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz later wrote, "The success of Taffy 3 was nothing short of special dispensation from the Lord Almighty." The battle became known as the Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors, April 1945. The Medal of Honor nomination for Commander Ernest E. Evans is approved. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, as commanding officer of the USS Johnston, in action against major units of the enemy Japanese fleet during the Battle of Samar on 25 October 1944. The first to lay a smokescreen and to open fire as an enemy task force, vastly superior in number, firepower and armor, rapidly approached. Commodore Evans gallantly diverted the powerful blasts of hostile guns from the lightly armed and armored carriers under his protection, launching the first torpedo attack when the Johnston came under straddling Japanese shellfire. Undaunted by damage sustained under the terrific volume of fire, he unhesitatingly joined others of his group to provide fire support during subsequent torpedo attacks against the Japanese and outshooting and outmaneuvering the enemy as he consistently interposed his vessel between the hostile fleet units and our carriers. Despite the crippling loss of engine power and communications with steering aft, shifted command to the fantail, shouted steering orders through an open hatch to men turning the rudder by hand and battled furiously until the Johnston, burning and shuddering from a mortal blow, lay dead in the water after 3 hours of fierce combat. Seriously wounded early in the engagement, Commodore Evans, by his indomitable courage and brilliant professional skill, aided materially in turning back the enemy during a critical phase of the action. His valiant fighting spirit throughout this historic battle will venture as an inspiration to all who served with him. Evans's full decorations: Medal of Honor, Bronze Star Medal with Combat V Purple Heart Presidential Unit, Citation China Service Medal, American Defense Service Medal with Fleet Clasp American Campaign, Medal Asiatic Pacific Campaign, Medal with 1 Silver Star and 1 Bronze Star representing 7 campaigns, World War II Victory Medal, Philippine Liberation Medal with 1 Bronze Star. Ernest Edwin Evans was 36 years old when he died. He was the first Native American in the U.S. Navy to receive the Medal of Honor. He was one of only 7 destroyer captains in World War II to receive the Medal of Honor. His name appears on the walls of the missing at Manila American Cemetery. Section: No grave. His body was never found. Ernest Evans didn't have a post-war life. He didn't write memoirs, didn't give speeches, didn't see his family grow old. What little is known about his personal life comes from scattered records. He was married. No details of his wife's name or children survive in readily accessible records. He was intensely private. He didn't talk about his heritage much, but his crew knew. They called him Chief, not to his face, but with respect. One surviving crew member said, "Commander Evans was a fighting man from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He was an Oklahoman and proud of the Indian blood he had in him. We called him, not to his face, Chief." The Johnston was a fighting ship, but he was her heart and her soul. His legacy is the ship. In 1955, destroyer escort USS Evans, DE 1023, was commissioned in his honor. She served until 1968. On May 23, 2013, the Surface Warfare Officers School at Naval Station Newport, Rhode Island, dedicated their ship handling simulator as the Evans Full Mission 2 Simulator. On November 15, 2023, Secretary of the Navy Carlos del Toro announced that DDG-141, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, will be named USS Ernest E. Evans. On March 31, 2021, explorer Victor Vescovo located USS Johnston's wreck, depth 21,180 feet, 6,460 meters, 4 miles down. The deepest shipwreck ever surveyed at the time. Hull number 557 is still visible on the twisted metal. She's lying on her side in the darkness, where she's been for 77 years, guarding the Philippine Trench. Everyone knows the famous ships, USS Enterprise, USS Missouri, the carriers that won the Pacific War. But how many know USS Johnston? How many know Taffy 3? How many remember the morning when 13 tiny ships held the line against an empire? Ernest Evans grew up in Oklahoma when Native Americans couldn't vote, couldn't own land in some states, were systematically discriminated against. He was 5'8", not physically imposing by warrior standards. He commanded a 2,700-ton destroyer, the Navy's smallest surface combatant. And when the moment came, when 23 Japanese warships appeared on the horizon, he didn't hesitate. He didn't calculate odds, didn't wait for permission, didn't consider survival. He saw 130,000 American soldiers on the beaches of Leyte, undefended, about to be massacred, and he charged. The Japanese had every advantage: bigger guns, thicker armor, more ships, more speed. They had Yamato, the most powerful battleship ever built. They had victory within their grasp, and they were turned back by destroyers, by tin cans, by men who refused to accept what the numbers said was inevitable. There's a concept in military history called moral force. It's the intangible quality that makes one side fight harder than logic says they should. Taffy 3 embodied moral force. Ernest Evans embodied it. When Japanese destroyer Yukikaze saluted the sinking Johnston, it wasn't ceremony, it wasn't protocol, it was recognition. One warrior recognizing another. Commander Terauchi saw what Evans had done. He understood. Johnston fought for 3 hours and 10 minutes against impossible odds. She knocked 2 heavy cruisers out of the battle. She drew fire from battleships. She charged cruiser columns. She intercepted destroyer squadrons, all while crippled, burning, sinking, and she never stopped fighting. That's why Yukikaze saluted. The battle off Samar lasted approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes of sustained combat. In that time, Taffy 3's actions changed the course of the Pacific War. If Kurita had broken through, if he'd reached Leyte Gulf, 130,000 American soldiers would have been slaughtered on the beaches. The Philippines campaign would have failed. The advance toward Japan would have been delayed by months, maybe years. MacArthur's promise to return would have ended in a bloodbath. But Kurita didn't break through, because Ernest Evans charged first. Because when he charged, others followed. Hole charged. Samuel B. Roberts charged. Heermann charged. The destroyer escorts, ships designed to hunt submarines, not fight battleships, charged. The aircraft, armed with depth charges and machine guns, attacked. The escort carriers, unarmed, unarmored, slow, ran while their escorts bought time with their lives. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. The mathematics of courage. On paper, the battle off Samar should have been a massacre. Japanese advantages: tonnage, 300,000 tons versus 37,000 tons, 8-to-1 advantage. Firepower. Yamato alone had more firepower than all of Taffy. 3 speed, 30+ knots versus 18 knots for carriers, 67% faster. Armor, battleship belt armor, 16 inches thick. Johnston's hull, 0.5 inches range. Japanese guns reached 20+ miles. American guns reached 9 miles, every calculation said. Japanese victory in under 1 hour. But calculations don't account for Evans. They don't account for men who refuse to run. They don't account for the moment when someone decides that dying while attacking is better than living while retreating. The chief's last stand. Ernest Evans spent his last moments on Johnston's fantail, bare-chested, 2 fingers missing, blood-soaked, shouting orders through an open hatch to men turning the rudder by hand, directing fire from the last remaining gun, refusing to abandon ship until every man who could escape had escaped. He went down with Johnston, like captains are supposed to do, but this wasn't tradition, this wasn't ceremony. Evans stayed because there were still men aboard who needed time to get off. He gave them that time. One survivor remembered, the chief was part Cherokee, part Creek. He had the heart of a warrior. He wasn't a tall man, but when he stood on that bridge, he was 10 feet tall. When he said we were going in harm's way, he meant it, every word. Another survivor. We knew we were going to die. The odds were impossible, but the chief didn't care about odds. He cared about those boys on the beaches. He cared about doing the job. So we did it, and somehow, most of us lived. He didn't. The unanswered questions. No one knows exactly how Ernest Evans died. Some survivors say he was hit by Japanese shellfire in the final minutes. Some say he jumped into the water after giving the abandon ship order. Commander Terauchi of Yukikaze claimed he saw Evans on a lifeboat returning the salute, with tears in his eyes. What's certain, Evans was seriously wounded during the battle. He was seen alive giving the abandoned ship order. He was not among the 141 survivors rescued on October 27th. His body was never recovered. The Philippine Trench is 34,580 feet deep at its deepest point, over 6.5 miles down. Johnston rests at 21,180 feet, 4 miles down. If Evans went down with his ship, that's where he is. In the darkness, with Johnston, forever. The wreck. For 77 years, Johnston lay undisturbed, the deepest shipwreck in the world at the time of her sinking. In 2019, explorer Victor Vescovo began searching for her. On March 31, 2021, the submersible DSV limiting factor found her. The hull number, 557, was still visible. The ship was lying on her starboard side, heavily damaged, but recognizable. Vescovo described seeing her. It's an incredibly humbling experience. You're looking at a ship that fought against impossible odds. Men died on that ship, men who charged battleships in a destroyer. You feel small, in the best way. The wreck is a war grave, protected under international law. Nothing was disturbed. Nothing was taken. Vescovo and his team saluted the wreck before ascending, just like Yukikaze saluted the sinking ship 77 years earlier. The contrast. Ernest Evans was 5'8", tall, shorter than average for his time, 170 pounds, light for a combat officer, part Cherokee and Creek in an era of systemic discrimination, commander of the smallest major surface combatant in the Navy against, the largest battleship ever built, an empire's last desperate gamble, 23 warships with 100 times his tonnage. The contrast is everything, because heroism doesn't come from size, it doesn't come from advantages. It comes from the moment you see what needs to be done and you do it, regardless of cost. Call back to opening October 25, 1944, 7 a.m. Commander Ernest Edwin Evans stands on the bridge of the USS Johnston. He sees Yamato. He sees the Japanese fleet. He knows the math and he orders, flank speed, full right rudder. That decision saved 130,000 lives. That decision changed history. That decision killed him. Final reflection. The Medal of Honor citation says Evans showed conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. But that undersells it. Evans didn't risk his life. He spent it, like currency, to buy time for others. 3 hours and 10 minutes of time, bought with 186 lives aboard Johnston. Was it worth it? Ask the 130,000 soldiers who lived because Johnston charged. Ask the families they came home to. Ask the children they had. The grandchildren. The great-grandchildren. The math compounds differently when you're counting lives saved instead of lives lost. Ernest Evans didn't win any tactical victories at Samar. Johnston didn't sink Yamato, didn't sink any battleships, but Johnston broke the Japanese formation, drew fire, created chaos, bought time, and in war, time is everything. Admiral Kurita lost his nerve because ships like Johnston kept attacking when they should have been running. He thought he was fighting Halsey's fleet. He thought reinforcements were coming. He was wrong on both counts, but the ferocity of Taffy 3's defense made him believe it. That's the victory, the true meaning of courage. People think courage is not being afraid. That's wrong. Courage is being absolutely terrified and doing it anyway. Evans knew the odds. His crew knew the odds. They charged anyway, not because they were fearless, because they were needed. There's a Japanese saying, "The nail that sticks up gets hammered down." Ernest Evans was a nail that stuck up his entire life. Native American in the Naval Academy, destroyer captain who promised to go in harm's way, commander who charged battleships without permission. He got hammered down at Samar, but before he did, he saved an army. The legacy lives on. In 2024, 80 years after the battle off Samar, the story of Taffy 3 is taught at every naval academy in the world, not as tactics, as inspiration, because tactics can be learned, technology can be built, but the spirit of Johnston, the willingness to face impossible odds because the mission demands it, that can't be taught. It can only be chosen. Admiral Nimitz said it was special dispensation from the Lord Almighty. Maybe. Or maybe it was just a Cherokee warrior from Oklahoma who kept his promise. "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way." He did. It was. And because of that, America won the Pacific. Final words. Ernest Evans's name appears on the walls of the missing at Manila American Cemetery. No grave, no body, no remains, just a name on a wall, and a ship 4 miles down in the darkness, and 130,000 soldiers who lived, and a battle that should have been a massacre that became a victory, and a story that proves this. Courage is not about size, it's not about advantages, it's not about winning. Courage is about seeing what needs to be done and doing it, even when the math says you'll die, even when everyone else would run, even when the enemy is Yamato and you're just a tin can. Because sometimes one destroyer charging changes everything. Sometimes David beats Goliath. Sometimes the chief goes in harm's way and saves an army. October 25th, 1944, 7 a.m. Commander Ernest E. Evans gives the order. Flank speed, full right rudder. USS Johnston charges. Into legend, into history, into the darkness 4 miles down, where she guards still,